Imagine a billionaire testing the room with a secret tongue, never expecting a response until the black maid lifts her head and replies in perfect Arabic, silencing the room. What she said next not only shattered every assumption, but unraveled a truth that would flip the world of the elite upside down. This story is about identity, heritage, and a twist of fate that no one saw coming. Stick around till the very end, it'll leave you breathless. And if you love powerful stories with deep meaning and dramatic justice, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to never miss another one. Now let's dive at the heart of Manhattan's glitzy skyline. The glass palace of billionaires stood tall, glimmering with exclusivity and arrogance. Tonight, it hosted the Solstice Gale, an annual congregation of global elite who sipped champagne, worth more than the average salary and judged silently with diamond-laced eyes. The grand ballroom buzzed with chatter in French, Italian, and English accents so polished they could cut glass. But amidst the noise moved a quiet figure in a faded uniform, Amara, the head maid, who went unseen by those she served. No one knew much about Amara except that she was efficient, punctual, and silent. She had been with the Darcy family for years, working under the radar, her deep cocoa skin a sharp contrast to the glittering ivory chandeliers above her. That night, the billionaire patriarch, Suleiman Darcy, a media magnate from Dubai, was about to announce something monumental. Whispers of legacy, mergers, and succession hung thick in the air. But as he raised his glass, looking out over the room full of designers, CEOs, heirs, and politicians, he paused with a subtle grin and, in smooth classical Arabic, asked a rhetorical, "The voice you selected does not support this language. Please click the upper right corner to switch to another voice." It was his way of proving their ignorance, asserting cultural superiority over his Western elite companions. The room fell into an odd silence until Amara, who had just placed a tray on a corner table, turned slowly and replied, "Every word you said, sir." Her voice was calm, but it hit like lightning. Glasses froze mid-air, conversations halted, and heads turned. Suleiman blinked. The room turned. "What did she say?" someone whispered. Amara straightened her spine, her presence now undeniable. Suleiman's smirk disappeared. He asked her in Arabic, almost testing her, "Where did you learn our language?" And she replied with quiet fire, "The voice you selected does not support this language. Please click the upper right corner to switch to another voice." The room fell into stunned silence again. But that wasn't the twist, it was the beginning. Suleiman, pale now, suddenly asked for everyone to step out, but the crowd refused to move. They wanted to know what had just happened. Amara wasn't just a maid. In fact, she never had been. 25 years ago, before the Darcys ever made their first billion, they had been involved in a charity operation in Sudan cover for rare earth, mining that displaced villages and ended families. One of those families had a girl with brilliant linguistic ability, a girl whose father had died in the resistance, and whose mother was silenced forever by corporate greed. That girl disappeared, until tonight. "You knew who I was the moment I stepped into your household," Amara said, now switching to flawless English, her voice rising not in anger but truth. "You thought if you kept me near silent, you could erase what you did." A gasp flew across the room. Reporters, once guests, turned their recorders on. Suleiman tried to wave his hand. "This is madness." But Amara pulled out a folded piece of paper, an old, weathered document with Darcy's signature authorizing the land seizure of a Sudanese province once known for its linguistic institutes and gold reserves. "Your name is on this," she said. "I've waited 17 years, cleaning your floors, watching you lie, building my evidence, every flight, every transaction, every bribe you paid to shut families up." Her eyes burned. "And tonight, I don't just speak Arabic, I speak justice." The crowd erupted. Some applauded, others gasped. Suleiman tried to call security, but they didn't move. Because Amara had planned everything. Two of the waiters were international journalists, the violinist, a human rights investigator. Even the chauffeur outside was an ex-Sudanese general. Amara had orchestrated this reveal with the precision of a military coup, but what no one expected was what came next. As Suleiman tried to flee the room, an older woman stood up from the crowd, a guest previously thought to be a Moroccan businesswoman. "You took my son," she said in Arabic. "And now the world knows." She pulled out her phone. It was live. Amara's story was already streaming across the globe. Within minutes, the Darzi Corporation's stock began to plummet. News networks switched focus, but Amara wasn't finished. She walked over to Suleiman, placed the maid's badge in his trembling hand and said, "You gave me this to make me invisible. Tonight, it made me unforgettable." Chapter 2 began with chaos. Suleiman was whisked away. PR agents scrambled to recover. But Amara, escorted by the press, stepped outside the mansion into the flashing lights, not as a maid, but as Dr. Amara Bashir, linguist, activist, and now whistleblower. Hidden for years in plain sight, she had waited patiently, armed not with violence, but with truth, intelligence, and timing. The following weeks were a storm. International lawsuits opened. Former workers began speaking up. Countries once silenced by wealth found a voice through Amara's movement, which she called Voices Without Uniforms. But the twist wasn't that she won, it was that she forgave. On a televised panel weeks later, when asked why she never used her knowledge for revenge, Amara replied, "Because when the oppressed become oppressors, the cycle continues. I didn't come to flip the table, I came to rebuild it." People wept. Schools named classrooms after her. Her story became curriculum. But what happened to Suleiman? In Chapter 3, he re-emerged, not to apologize, but to fight back. From a private island, he tried to sue Amara for defamation. But the documents he used as evidence only proved her claims further. A judge in The Hague issued an arrest warrant. His empire collapsed under the weight of secrets he thought buried beneath. Dust and gold. Amara? She returned to Khartoum not as a refugee, but as a hero. She rebuilt the very institute where she once learned Arabic on her mother's knee. But here comes Chapter 4, the true shocker. At a memorial in London, a young man approached. "Amara," he had Suleiman's eyes. "My mother was a housekeeper. You worked with her once. I think you're my aunt." Amara stared at the boy, and her voice cracked. "Then you're the last piece of my sister I thought I lost." The two embraced, living proof that no amount of money or lies could erase bloodlines, truth, or the voice of a woman who waited years to be heard. The camera zoomed out as the world leaned in to listen, no longer to a billionaire's silence, but to a maid's voice, speaking every language of justice.